Ladies and gentlemen, Police Chief Walken D. Wildside here. I'm afraid I got some bad news. Welcome to the library, but unfortunately, tonight's honoree, Ernie Hammyweight, will not be here for the library's renaming ceremony. Mr. Hammyweight was found earlier this afternoon. Floating in his pool, it appears he has been murdered. I know. I'll let you take that in for a minute. We have a lot of suspects to question, so we're going to get set up on this staging area here. We're a little short-staffed at the police department, so I hope you keep your ears open and look for clues. I need to basically deputize all of you last minute here. Any help you can lend will be greatly appreciated. You actually have a list of suspects. My report and a map of Ernie Hammiweight's backyard. Don't ask me how I got that to you so quickly. It's just good police work is what that is. So now let's go ahead and let's interview the suspect. I need to have the first suspect, please. Hello there, ma'am. Police Chief Walken D. Wildside here. Investigate the suspicious. Oh, sorry. Let me get this. There you go. Here to investigate the suspicious death of one of the state's most prominent residents.
Yes, I heard about Ernie's passing. So sad.
Well, I'm going to need to ask you a few questions. Can you please state your name and occupation?
Yes, it's B, middle initial R, Guest, G-H-E-S-T. I'm the proprietor of the Guest House, the coziest bed and breakfast on the Keys.
Oh, well, I've heard of your B&B. Aren't there rumors about it being haunted?
No, that's strictly rumors, and they don't keep the tourists away. The Guest House was built in 1859, and it's been in my family for generations. I'm proud to say it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
That's interesting. Sounds like you're really into family history.
Oh, I'm passionate about local history and genealogy. How about you, Inspector? Have you done any searching for your Wildside ancestors?
No, ma'am, can't say that I have.
Oh, well, when this investigation is over, we'll have to get together. I could get you set up on an Ancestry account, and then I'll show you how to look for your ancestors on Family Search.
Ma'am, can we
First, start with yourself.
Please, we need to get on with my questions.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I apologize. But first, would you like a treat? I am known for my fresh-baked scones. Baking is my other passion. You know, you look so thin. Somebody needs to fatten you up. Is there a Mrs. Wildside to fatten you up?
Ma'am, if we could please just stick with Mr. Hammiweight's murder.
Oh, of course. I baked the scones in his honor when I heard he was dead. They were his favorite treat. Well, one of his favorite treats. He was a man of many appetites.
All right, well, then what was your relationship with him?
Oh, Ernie and I weren't close, but we got along. I admired his work, if not his behavior. Are you sure you're not hungry? You look like a muffin man.
No, thanks. No, thanks. Okay. I hope you can fill me in on some of your neighbors who also knew Mr. Hammyweight. First, what can you tell me about this Raslyn C. Ritters? I understand she's been staying at Guest House.
Yes, she is. Have you seen her TV show? It's called Gator Gal. She loves the rough and tumble adventures, but when she needs to relax, she comes here and stays at the Guest House.
Okay, well, I'll be interviewing her soon. What can you tell me about Life Z Beach?
Life? I suppose he's harmless enough. He's just a beach bum through and through. He was Ernie's favorite drinking buddy. I think, though, he'd do well to get a job and quit mooching off his friends. I do wonder what police officer Sonny sees in him. Although lately I haven't seen them together much. Sonny could do better. She's a sweetheart and always sees the best in people. But she does take her job seriously.
Well, that's strange. I didn't know Sonny was seeing Life. Anyway, so let's get on with it for now. What about Marina Swag? She's the president of the Key West Yacht Club.
Oh, Marina Swag. I admire her style. She's always so well turned out. But even though she seems cool and genteel, she does have a temper. I used to hear her arguing quite loudly with her husband, Sal, her late husband, Sal. Sal was an old army buddy of Ernie's, and I heard that Ernie never believed her story, that Sal's death was an accident.
Well, exactly how did Sal die?
He fell overboard when they were out on their sailboat, Swag o' the Sea. If you don't want a muffin, I have some poppy seed bread in here for you. I'm known for my poppy seed cake,
Nope.
you know.
No cake of any kind, thank you. How would you describe, let's move on, Bubbles J. Kuzi?
Bubbles. Bubbles' name suits her perfectly. She's a lot of fun. Now, I don't attend those parties. I have a reputation at the guest house. But those parties that she's always throwing, everyone seems to enjoy them. She's very popular, especially with the men, if you know what I mean.
I think I get it. Did those men include Mr. Hammyweight?
Let's just say, I believe they were more than casual acquaintances.
Now, do you know what Dr. Chlorophyll was doing here at the Keys? Now, I understand she's a botanist who teaches at the University of Miami.
Well, I don't know her, but I have seen her around. I picked up one of these flyers from her early. You may have seen those. You can have that if you want.
Okay.
Dr. Clora always has some fancy scientific equipment with her, and I've seen her examining some ferns quite closely.
All right, and what about Paul Meadow?
Paul, that man has an uncanny sense when it comes to bugs. As soon as I see a palmetto bug in my kitchen, he's at the door. I don't even have to call him.
And did he have any connection to Hammyweight?
Well, you know, that's a funny thing. This afternoon, I was walking over to Winn-Dixie to pick up some raspberry jam for my scones, because my guests love raspberry
Sure they
jam on my homemade scones. Yes. Anyway, I saw Paul's rusty green van. It's very distinctive, bugs all over it, you can't miss it. And this van was parked on the side street, but Paul wasn't in it. So a few minutes later, I passed by Ernie's house, and I saw Paul coming from the other direction. He was scuttling along, carrying that patented bug zapper of his. He says the concoction that he fills it with, bug death juice, is highly toxic. I wouldn't doubt it.
Oh, wait a second now, did you see him enter Hammyweight's house?
No, I hurried on my way to the Winn-Dixie to pick up the raspberry jam for my scones, my homemade scones.
Okay. What time was that?
It must have been about 20 after 4, 20 minutes past 4. I know, because I was thinking about getting home to see my favorite show, Finding Your Roots on PBS.
Surprise? And who was featured in that episode of Finding Your Roots?
On that, I believe, I think it was Sarah Jessica Parker, or maybe it was Amy Poehler. You know, Ernie's death has me so flummoxed, I can't remember now.
Well, you know, that's too bad, because that could have served as quite the alibi.
Alibi? Am I a suspect? I assure you I would never. Violence is not in my DNA.
Well, we'll see about that. So you can go now, but you better not leave town.
But don't worry, Detective. I have a business to run and scones to bake.
All righty. Can I have the next suspect, please? Hi there, Police Chief Walken D, Wildside. Can I get your name and occupation?
Oh, yeah, I'm Dr. Phil, Dr. Chlorophyll. I'm a botany professor at the University of Miami. I have written countless scholarly articles and just completed my first book, Floridian Ferns. Perhaps you've read it.
I can't say that I have, but I do need to ask you some questions.
Oh, okay. I know what this is about. You are investigating the death of that awful man, Ernest Hammyweight.
Now, why would you call the deceased awful?
While he showed no respect for my beloved stink frond. We need to save the stink frond because Stinky is super.
Come again?
Oh, well, I'm a botanist whose life work is to rescue and protect rare plants from extinction. The plant closest to my heart is Stenchus pungitis, commonly known as the stink frond, the only wild specimens grow in Key West. The stink frond gets no respect because it's poisonous and, well, really stinky, but I'm determined to save it.
Poisonous? How interesting.
Oh, no, don't get any ideas, Police Chief. I may have detested Ernie Hammyweight, but I'm no murderer. He was a vile man, not like you. So I was wondering, do you like taking long, romantic walks in the woods, looking for unusual flora?
Yeah, why don't we get back to how you knew Ernie Hammyweight?
Oh, I hate to think about that encounter. Yesterday, I was exploring a patch of undergrowth near Hammy-Waite's historic home. My highly trained nose caught this familiar odor of Stenchus pungitis. I looked for the plant and eventually found it in a shaded corner of Hammyweight's lush, fenced-in backyard. The fence was too high for me to climb. So I let myself in through the gate. Then I came face to face with Ernie Hammyweight.
And then what'd you do?
I heard he had a nasty temper, and sure enough, he read me the riot act for trespassing on his property. When I explained that I only wanted to take care of an endangered fern, he snidely replied that he would take care of the stink frond by poisoning it. I'm afraid I lost my cool and screamed no as he shoved me out of his yard and closed the gate. I peered through the fence at that vile man, knelt down to take a closer look at the stink frond. He held his nose, looked at me through the fence, and shouted, "You're dead," before waddling over to his lawn chair. He seemed to forget about the fern and started napping.
Well, it certainly sounds like an interesting encounter. Let's talk about some of the other people in town that you know.
Well, I don't know that many Key West residents, but I just adore one of your officers, Sunny Bright. She's so kind and supportive of my work with the stink frond. She occasionally stops by on her bicycle to say thank you with a fresh cup of herbal iced tea.
Did you see Sunny today?
I did. I was taking notes in the field this morning when Sunny stopped by on her bike for a visit. I asked her what she knew about Ernie because I was still shaken by my encounter with him yesterday. Her beautiful smile changed into a sour expression. She told me that Ernie was a brash, nasty bully, and she was sick and tired of his mean-spirited behavior.
And did you notice anything else?
Oh, yeah. Later today, I happened to see Sunny running from Hammyweight's backyard. She looked shaken up.
And what time was that?
Oh, I'd say about 4:45 p.m.
And what were you doing near Ernie Hammyweight's house at that time?
I was just doing more scouting for the stink frond, nothing else. But let me tell you what else I saw.
What's that?
Later this afternoon, I saw the strangest thing. That lazy bum, Lifesea Beach, came running through the gate from Hammyweight's backyard, soaking wet and shirtless. He seemed quite panicked and unsteady on his feet.
And about what time was that?
I'd say about 4:55 p.m.
And was Hammyweight still alive at this point?
Yes, he was. I saw him hopping around and swearing a blue streak.
Was there anything else you saw during your search for the smelly plant?
Stink frond.
My apologies.
Yes. Yes, right after I saw Life running away, I saw that silly creature Bubbles sneak into Ernie's backyard. I wonder what she was up to, but everyone knows that frivolous creature was having an affair with Hammyweight.
Very interesting. Do you have anything else you can...
Oh, yeah. Yesterday, I was studying some young stink fronds in the park, but I witnessed an interesting meeting. Life was sitting on a bench when a woman in a trench coat, hat, and sunglasses, I believe to be Marina Swag, came up to him. I don't know Mrs. Swag personally. I've seen her picture in the papers, and I'd really like to get some money from her for my stink frond campaign. But she really likes, to give money, I hope. They were speaking in hushed tones, and I have no idea what they were talking about, but they seemed to be haggling over something. Eventually, they shook hands, and then she gave him an object that looked like a knife.
Now that's suspicious. Well, Thank you for your time. I'm sure I'll be talking to you again soon, since you were near the scene of the crime about the time that it happened.
I told you, I'm no murderer.
Well, yeah, ma'am, you can go now, but I wouldn't leave town.
Oh, I will not leave town until I saved enough samples of my beloved stink font.
Yeah, well, that's a surprise. Thank you for your time. All right. Next suspect, please. Come on in and have a seat. I'm Police Chief Walken D. Wildside. You may have heard about the demise of Ernie Hammyweight. I'm interviewing his known friends and associates. Can you please state your name and occupation for the record?
My name is Ms. Marina Swag. I guess you could call me a world traveler. I love sailing the high seas on my yacht, Swag of the Sea.
But do you have a home here in Key West?
Oh yes, well, more of an estate really, several acres of beachfront property.
I see. May I ask how you acquired the yacht and the estate?
My late husband, Salty Swag, purchased them both.
Ah, now I remember why your name is familiar. Mr. Swag died in a rather strange boating accident a number of years ago, did he not?
That's right.
And you haven't remarried.
No, I'm single and fancy-free. How about you, Chief? Is there a Mrs. Wildside?
I'll be the one asking the questions if you don't mind. How well did you know Mr. Hammyweight?
Ernie and Sal were old Army buddies, so we go back a long way.
Did you get along well?
To tell you the truth, things have been a bit strained between us since Sal died. Ernie couldn't seem to accept that Sal simply fell overboard and drowned in calm seas in the middle of the day. His body was never recovered.
I do remember that, actually. Let me ask you about a few of your other neighbors here in Key West. What can you tell me about Bubbles Jacuzzi?
Bubbles, she's a good time gal. Gives a lot of parties. They aren't really to my taste, but I attend occasionally to do some networking. You never know who you might see there. I'm always looking for ways to help the community.
I've heard that Bubbles may have had a romantic relationship with Hammyweight. Know anything about that?
As a matter of fact, I saw Ernie at one of Bubbles' beach parties just a few nights ago. They were having a loud argument. I heard Ernie demand that she stop seeing someone named Biff, or else he would cut off her allowance, stop paying her rent, and kill Biff. Bubbles seemed terrified. She swore she would break up with Biff, but I'm not sure she meant it.
Well, it sounds like Hammyweight was quite the ladies' man, huh?
That's an understatement. Have you met Gator Gal Wrestling Ritter yet? She's another one of Ernie's conquests. About 10 years ago, he published a memoir about their globe-trotting romance. It was called Monkeying Around with Gator Gal.
Oh.
It told about how they snuggled in the Serengeti, smooched in Sri Lanka, petted in Pretoria, canoodled in the Canaries, were anything but bored in Bora Bora, and whether it was better in the Bahamas.
Get the picture.
They were very much in love, but it ended badly thanks to his drinking and his womanizing. She caught him cheating once too often and stormed out of his house. I don't think he ever forgave her for leaving him.
All right, duly noted. Do you know Life Z Beach?
Not really. We don't move in the same circles.
Well, then how do you explain a witness's statement that you were seen talking intently with him next to a park bench just a few days ago? The witness further says she saw you shake hands and then hand him something that looked like a knife.
Whoever said that is sadly mistaken.
Uh-huh. All right, well, let's move on here. Do you know B, our guest?
She's pleasant and gracious, but hardly a bright light in the social scene.
Wow. And are you acquainted with Sunny Bright, one of our bicycle patrol officers?
Oh, yes. She is so kind and dedicated to her job. You should give that girl a promotion.
Now, what about Paul Meadow?
Frankly, he gives me the creeps. But he does perform a useful service, keeping bugs at bay.
Now, can you please tell me where you were this afternoon between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock.
I am the president, you know.
Sure.
Then I drove home. I guess it must have been about 4:20 or so.
Okay. And did your drive take you past Hammyweight's house by any chance?
Actually, it did.
Okay. Did you see anything unusual?
Now let me think. Oh yes, I saw Be Our Guest. She was carrying a big manila envelope that looked like it was stuffed full of papers, and this was really odd. I caught a glimpse of Wrestling there too. She was in the bushes at the end of Ernie's lawn and holding a big canvas sack of some kind.
All right. Well, thank you, Miss Swag. That's going to be all for now. Don't go sailing away until this matter is resolved.
I won't, but I'm always ready to sail away.
Let's get the next suspect in here. Can I have Life Z Beach, please? Any day now. Hey there, sir. Police Chief Walken D. Wildside.
Wow, sir. Nobody ever called
Yes.
sir before. Wow. Beautiful day outside. Sure don't like being stuck in here. I'd rather be out walking, combing the beach. That's what I do. I'm a beach comber.
At least you're combing something. All right, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. What are you carrying, Mr. Beach?
Oh, this baby? This is my Beachcomber 10,000 right there. Boy, that's found me some real nice treasures while I'm combing the beach.
Very impressive. Now, I need to ask you a few questions.
Oh, what you want to know?
Well, I'm sure you've heard by now that the author Ernie Hammyweight was murdered earlier today, and I'd like to know your relationship with the author.
Oh, my God, such a shame. Ernie was a great drinking buddy of mine. He'd always open his bar for his old pal wife. We spent a lot of time in his hot tub.
Yeah, you know, speaking of that hot tub, the witness said you were seen about 4:55 p.m. today running through the gate from Mr. Hammyweight's backyard, soaking wet and shirtless. Can you tell me about that?
Shirtless?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've said it.
oh,
Shirtless.
jeez, I know who squealed on me. I bet it was an uptight scientist, Chlorophyll. A few weeks ago, she threw a fit when she saw me sleeping on a nice soft pad of ferns. She accused me of ruining the thing. She called them stink fronds. Oh, I gotta tell you, she's right. Boy, you could smell me a mile away.
I'll bet. And why do you think it was Miss Phil who saw you running from Ernie's house?
Well, let me tell you, it's a long story. I was at Ernie's today. He gave me a glass of whiskey and invited me into his hot tub. It was such a beautiful day, so how could I say no? I think I fell asleep for a bit, but when I woke up, I saw the strangest thing. I swore I saw a bee. That woman who runs the bed and breakfast sneaked in the yard and ducked behind a tree. Bee's all right, though. She usually gives me scones and leftovers whenever I hang around her door. I was going to say something to her, but the hot tub was so warm, I think I fell back asleep.
All right, and what happened when you finally woke up?
Well, first I saw that Chlora creeping through the corner of the yard between the gate and the cabana, a sharp spade in her hand. I wondered what she was doing. Then I noticed Ernie was no longer in the hot tub. He was jumping around in a panic, holding his left leg. I think he was hurt, so I got out to see if I could help. That's when I saw it.
Saw what?
I saw a snake. Giant snake coming at me. I'm terrified of snakes. So I grabbed my shirt and I ran.
Well, so Mr. Hammyweight was alive when you ran away.
Oh, he sure was. And was he cursing up a storm. I never want to be around him when he's mad. He's a mean drunk. He does nasty things after he drinks. Like when he called Sonny and got me in trouble. Never mind about that.
Now, Sonny, as in police officer Sonny Wright,
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Sonny.
I'm afraid you need to answer my questions, Life.
Okay, well, Sonny was the love of my life, but I blew it. My friends teased me that a beach bum would never fall for a cop. It was love at first sight. I met her last October. I was standing around a cafe, hoping someone would give me their leftovers, when Sonny came up to me. She wrote me a ticket for loitering. I was smitten. Oh, she was so sweet about it all. She told me about all the worthwhile things I could do with my time, like signing up for yoga or taking a nature walk. I knew I could win her over as long as I stayed out of trouble. I was on my best behavior for the next few months and flirted with Sonny whenever she came by on her bicycle. Pretty soon we were dating.
Huh. Are you still seeing Sonny?
No. And it's all Ernie's fault.
Really? What happened?
Hang on just a second.
Take your time.
Thank you. A few weeks ago, I was combing the beach. That's when I beach comb. Combing the beach and made the discovery of my life. Big pile of treasure, old trash heap filled with newspapers, letters, and best of all, old jewelry dating back to the 1800s. The letters included one about bees in. But I only cared about the antique jewelry, so I passed all the papers over to Ernie. You know, he always was, and, well, I guess he isn't anymore, but he was a history buff.
And what did you do with all that stuff?
Well, I pawned the jewels and had the cash to burn. I went bar hopping. Saw Sonny on the street, who agreed to join me for a drink. Oh, she was off duty, of course, Chief.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, she kissed me goodnight before heading home. I was over the moon.
All right, and what did Ernie do to ruin things?
Well, I told Ernie could be mean. He didn't like that I was seeing Sonny. So one night he called her and told her about what I had done on the beach, what I found on the beach and what I had done with it. Sonny was so upset with me, she rode her bike to my favorite park bench and told me that what I did was wrong. She said since the items I found were historic value of the city, I should have donated them to the Key West Museum. She said she was through with me.
All right, there. You need to calm down. Can you go on? Good. Yeah. You were also seen yesterday at the park sitting on a bench when a woman who appeared to be Marina Swag came up to you. Now, what were you two talking about?
Nope, it was nothing. She just asked me how I was doing.
All right, well, Miss Swag apparently shook hands with you after she handed you an object that looked an awful lot like a knife. Is that true?
She was just trying to be nice. She gave me some old knife she didn't want anymore. She thought I could use it to clean a fish that I would get that washed up on the beach while I was beach combing.
That all sounds perfectly normal. I guess what I mean to say is pretty suspicious.
Yeah, I just have to say that I'm not the killer. Chief, I'm not the killer. Why would I kill my best buddy, you know? Why would I do that? You know who I find suspicious?
And who's that?
Well, I'll tell you.
All right, I'm waiting.
I say you better talk to that weird bug zapper, Paul Meadow.
Yeah.
He has a bug up his butt about Ernie, if you know what I mean. I was at the pub enjoying a cocktail with some buddies when Paul walked in. We started talking about Ernie's latest acquisition, a Croatian kissing cockroach. Ernie caught the bug when he was touring Eastern Europe and brought it home to keep as a pet.
All right, I'm failing to see why this is significant.
Well, when Paul heard this, he growled and got a fiery look in his eyes. He was really upset and muttered something like, "He must die." And he kind of slunk out of the bar.
All right. Well, thank you for that information. I now have more questions than before. But don't leave town. I'm sure I'm going to need to talk to you again.
Well, you know where to find me, Chief. Either my favorite park bench, walking the beach, or at the pub. all I can tell you, Sonny, if you could, I'd like you to tell Sonny I said hi when you see her, please.
And I'll see what I can do.
Thank you. I'm gonna be down combing the beach.
Of course. Thank you, Mike. Yeah. Hope he does all right. All right. Why don't we go ahead and send in the Ritter's woman?
Hey, Peter, is this about Ernie? Is this about the murder?
It absolutely is. I'm Police Chief Walken D. Wildside. Can you please have a seat?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. Can you please state your name and occupation then?
Well, I guess you don't watch much TV, do you, Chief Walken D. Wildside? I'm Gator Gal. I have a show on Animal Planet, you know, Gator Gal. Gator Gal is my name. Wrangling wildlife is my game. If it has scales or claws or fur, I'm not frightened, that's for sure. Gator Gal. Gator Gal.
Oh, no, that's very catchy.
Yes, it is.
Can you tell me the nature of your relationship with Mr. Hammyweight?
You know, I would say that it was exciting, even tempestuous. You might say we had an animal attraction. We shared a passion for travel and adventure, but we had a nasty breakup almost 10 years ago. You know, to tell you the truth, Chief, I've never had good luck with relationships. How about you? Do you have a mate?
No, we're talking about you and Mr. Hammyweight.
Well, okay. In the end, I left him. He was incapable of being faithful to anyone but Jack Daniels. Certainly not to any one woman. Things ended when I caught him tomcatting one too many times.
Tomcatting, eh? You must have been pretty angry.
I was, and I let him know it. And as I stormed out the door, I may have even shouted that he was as putrid as a steaming pile of warthog dung.
And how do you take that?
Not well. Not well. He was as miserable as a giraffe with a sore throat, as mad as a zebra with a mouthful of bumblebees. In fact, he threatened me. He said I better watch my back.
Did he carry out his threat?
You know, in a way, he did. But so many years had gone by that I'd almost forgotten about his threat. But you know, about a month ago, my most beloved alligator, Smiley, my heart, Smiley, he disappeared from my wildlife sanctuary. I searched the Everglades for days looking for him, and when I finally found him, he was as dead as a new gored by a rhino. He had been shot between the eyes with an elephant gun. And I knew only one person who owned such a gun. So I stalked. I went to Ernie. And I accused him of killing Smiley. But he just replied, "I told you to watch your back." And he walked away.
Well, you must have wanted to kill him to avenge Smiley.
I didn't kill Ernie. I may be tough enough to wrestle gators, but I wouldn't kill any living creature, not even one as vile as Ernie. Besides, there was some pretty suspicious activity going on at his place this afternoon. I'm not the one you should be questioning.
Oh, really? Well, what were you doing there? What did you see?
Well, I just wanted to see what he was up to. I didn't plan to kill him, but I was trying to think of a non-lethal way. Something not very lethal, but painful, to get even with him. So I went to his house, but I didn't go in. I just watched for a while through a hole in the fence on the edge of his backyard, much like you might watch for a hyena at a watering hole.
Of course, yes.
And Ernie was in the hot tub with Life, that slacker who's about as youthful as a three-toed sloth. There were empty whiskey bottles laying around, and the two of them were passed out like a couple of koalas high on eucalyptus.
I get the picture? Yeah.
I saw Marina Swag kneeling next to the hot tub, and she had a wicked-looking sailing knife in one hand and something that looked like a rusty trophy in the other hand.
Well, that sounds suspicious.
Well, that's not all.
Okay.
I was distracted for a moment by what I thought was the sound of a manatee in peril. It sort of was like a blah blah boo, blah blah boo.
Got it.
Manatee in peril. But it wasn't. But when I looked back, again, Marina was gone. But then Sunny, that nice policewoman, she entered the yard and she started to argue with Ernie, who was awake by then.
Oh, he was?
But wait, there's more.
All right.
Sunny left, and then 5 minutes later, that floozy Bubbles Jacuzzi shows up. You know, it is just like Ernie to have one mate after another.
Get the picture.
He's just like a bonobo monkey that way, you know? A bonobo monkey. The bonobo, are you familiar with the bonobo? Anyway, Ernie was sitting in the hot tub. He had his back to Bubbles. She had a metal barbecue skewer in one hand, and she was sneaking up on him like a lion. Stalking a wildebeest.
All right, one piece. Don't stop. What happened?
Oh, I don't know. A breeze blew in front of the hole in the fence, and it blocked my view. So I decided I better get out of there, so I hot-footed it back to the guest house, fast as a cheetah chasing a gazelle.
Phew. All right. Well, you can go for now, but your jungle exploits are over until we get to the bottom of this.
But I'm scheduled to go to the Amazon tomorrow. My producer will be just as livid as a lizard in...
Just go.
Here, for your offspring.
All right. Next suspect, please.
Spider right there.
Police Chief Wildside here. I need to ask you some questions concerning the death of Ernie Hammyweight.
Paul Meadow, owner of Die Bug Die.
Is it safe to say you don't like bugs?
Well, let's put it this way. I like to kill them. I was born with an ability to sniff out insects. I could have become an entomologist or an exterminator. I preferred eradicating bugs to studying them, so my path was clear.
What's that contraption you're carrying there?
This little beauty is my patented bug zapper gun, filled with my patented bug zapper juice. Nothing survives the bug zapper. Wait, did you see that?
Geez, let's put that toxic gun down. I didn't see anything.
Well, you never can be too careful. My clients can attest to my ability to exterminate all kinds of creepy crawlers. I seem to have a sixth sense for finding them. As a matter of fact, there's one under your shoe right now!
Yikes! All right, all right. All right, I got it. Put the weapon down. So, you tell me, how toxic is that bug zapper juice? Could it kill a human?
Well, let's just say it's never been tested. I sure wouldn't try any of my coffee, though, if you know what I mean.
I think I get the idea. Good to know. Now, a witness said she saw your van parked outside Ernie Hammiweight's house right around the time of the murder. What were you doing there?
Well, that's kind of a long story. I was at the pub, minding my own business, having a beer, when I heard Life talking with his buddies.
Are you friends with Life?
No, I don't really have any friends. Will you be my friend?
Just stick to the questions here. How about we do that? Maybe you need to spend more time with people and less time with books. Anyway, what did you hear at the bar?
Life said Hammyweight had a Croatian kissing cockroach as a pet. Ernie thought it was funny that this 5-inch cockroach was named for the disgusting slurpy kisses it gives on the hands, feet, and faces of unsuspecting humans. Can you believe that? Who would want to keep such a disgusting creature? That changed my opinion of Hammyweight as a great writer to a disgusting. Actually, I went there yesterday. I thought I could try to take a look around for the giant cockroach.
And kill it?
Well, if the critter was on the loose, I was ready for it.
All right. Let's try not to spray anyone with that stuff. And did you notice anything suspicious while you were at Ernie Hammiweight's house?
Yeah, when I was looking for the cockroach, I overheard 2 people yelling in the backyard. I looked over the fence, and I saw that weird Clara, Phil, and Ernie yelling at each other. I don't like Clara. She's annoying and thinks my bug death juice is harming the local ecosystem. What a freak!
Yeah, she's the freak. All right, can we get back to what you heard?
Right, well, Ernie was screaming at Clara that she was trespassing. She said she only wanted to rescue an endangered fern. Ernie told her he would take care of the fern by poisoning it as soon as possible. Clara then screamed, "No!" as Ernie shoved her out of his yard and closed the gate.
All right, so you didn't find the cockroach.
Sadly, no. That's why I went back today.
You went back today. Did you notice anything unusual?
Yes, I creeped onto the patio and saw that police officer, Sonny, arguing with Ernie next to the hot tub, where that bum wife was asleep. It was unusual to hear Sonny screaming. She told Ernie she was sick of his corrupting influence, while Ernie kept swearing at her.
Well, can you think of anything else that could help this investigation?
Well, I was at guest house yesterday, hunting for an earwig nest, when I heard something strange through the window. Bee was muttering to herself. That manuscript contains horrible, malicious lies, and I will work to get rid of it.
Wow, all right. That's really interesting. Was she talking to anyone?
I didn't hear anyone answer her, but I know the bugs were listening.
All right, well, Mr. Meadow, make sure you stay around town. I may need to question you again.
I'm not going anywhere, unless there's a need to eradicate a bug. Don't forget, if you have a pest, call Die Bug
All
Die.
right. Jeez. All right, that was close. All right. Well, at least we'll be free from bugs for us. All right, let's go on with the next suspect, please. Sonny, I'm kind of surprised to see you involved in all of this.
Me too, Chief. I'm so embarrassed.
Now, Sonny, why are you embarrassed?
Well, I bet by now you heard I was dating Lifesey Beach for a while. I'm sure you think he's not a good man.
Now, Sonny, I'm not here to judge your love life. I just need to ask some questions to shed light on what happened today at Ernie Hammiweight's house.
Yes, Chief.
Now, I heard from a witness that you didn't really have a great opinion of the deceased.
Well, that's true, Chief. I thought Ernie Hammyweight was a mean bully and a bad influence on Life. Life was trying to clean himself up and not drink so much. But Ernie was always encouraging him to go in that blasted hot tub and drink whiskey. Ernie didn't like me because I always tried to keep Life away from his drunken antics.
Well, I understand that he actually helped break you and Life up. Can you tell me about that?
Well, one night Ernie called me, clearly drunk. He said Life had a little secret I should know about, since I was a cop. He said Life found a bunch of valuables on the beach and he pawned them. Ernie was gleeful about it, knowing I would be upset.
Okay, well, what did you do next?
Well, I immediately pedaled over to Life's favorite park bench and confronted him. He admitted he'd found a bunch of old jewelry, antiques, and papers while he was combing the beach with his metal detector. He gave the old papers and documents to Ernie and pawned the rest. I was upset.
Well, what'd you do?
Well, I told Life that what he did was wrong. I told him that instead of bringing the historic items to the authorities to donate to the Key West Museum archives, he made a quick buck instead.
I threatened to press charges against him and said we were through.
Now, Sonny, you were seen late this afternoon arguing with Hammyweight in his backyard, and another witness said you were seen running from the house. What were you doing there?
Well, Chief, I was so angry with Ernie. That's not like me. I decided I'd give him a piece of my mind. I found both of them in the hot tub, but life was passed out. I started to confront Ernie about his bad influence on life, and he started screaming at me.
All right, what happened next?
Well, it was horrible. Ernie was so angry. He jumped out of the hot tub and he picked up a wicked-looking knife he'd found on the ground, and he lunged at me with a big grin on his face. I dodged the weapon easily, thanks to my police training.
Of course.
Eh? You taught me.
Yeah.
But Ernie kept trying to stab me. I deflected a few more attacks and was finally able to knock the knife from his hand with a well-placed chop. Watch out.
I know.
Chop. Just like that.
Didn't even see it coming. Sheesh. The student has become the master. All right.
Learn from the best.
That is awful, Sonny. What did you do?
Well, I told Ernie, that's last straw, Hemingway. I'm booking you for battery. I got my handcuffs out, and then I stopped. Life suddenly stirred and made a childlike yawning sound and slipped back into unconsciousness. My resolve was shaken. I knew I'd instigated the fight, so I put my cuffs away and I ran out of the yard.
Well, did you notice anything else suspicious going on?
Well, yesterday, while I was pedaling past Bee's Inn, I saw Ernie leaving through the front door. As he ambled away, Ernie took to look at Bee in the doorway and with a smirk said, "Thanks for the scones, Miss Bandits." Bee looked positively stricken by his words.
Wait, he called her Mrs. Bandits. Now that's really strange. Anything else?
Well, yeah, when I was leaving Ernie's today, I noticed that bug exterminator, Palmetto, moving from the direction of Ernie's fence toward his rusty van, which parked on the street. He was holding his bug zapper gun.
I saw it.
And then I saw Clara leaving Ernie's yard through the front gate. She had a sharp gardening spade in one hand and a medium-sized container in the other. Well, I was so upset, I went home for some peppermint tea and a relaxing meditation session, which you should try sometime, Chief.
We'll see about that. Thanks, Sonny. You know the drill. Don't leave the area because I will have some more questions.
Thanks.
Whew. All right. One more to go. Please send her in. Oh, wow. All right. Can you state your name and occupation for the record?
Oh, of course. My name is Bubbles J. Kuzi. My occupation? Well, I don't have a job or anything, but I do keep occupied. To the max. What with parties and sunbathing, well, you know.
Yeah. All right. Wow. All right. I believe my officers have taken actually some complaints about your parties from time to time. Now, they can get a bit rowdy, Bubbles.
Well, everyone does always have a good time because I invite people who know how to party. Like Wrestling Critters, the, big TV star. She likes to bring wild birds and lizards and sometimes, even a snake. That's always fun, totally tubular. Marina Swag shows up sometimes, even though, she normally attends much swankier affairs. She adds a nice touch of class to an evening. Life's Beach is such a laid-back, easygoing guy. And he mixes a gnarly Mai Tai. You should see him do the limbo. How low can you go? How low can you go?
All right, sounds like you welcome just about everyone. What about Palmetto, Bee, Guest, and Chlorophyll?
Well, I don't, turn anyone away, but Paul, gagged me with a spoon. I hate it when he shows up. He always smells funny and spends all his time hunting for bugs instead of mixing and mingling. Bee and Clora would be welcome, but Bee isn't exactly a party animal, and Clora, well, she wouldn't know a party if she walked right into one.
And did Ernie Hammyweight usually attend these soirees of yours? After all, didn't he pay for them?
Well, sometimes.
I've been told the two of you were more than just casual acquaintances.
Yeah, we were.
We have a witness who heard you arguing with him at a party a few nights ago. She heard him threaten to stop paying your rent, cut off your money supply, and kill someone named Biff.
You have to understand, Chief. Ernie and I had a good thing going for a long time, but Biff is the love of my life. I don't know what love was. I didn't know what love was until I met him a few months ago. Isn't that how you felt when you met your wife? There is a Mrs. Wildside, isn't there?
There is. Her name is Ihava.
I have a Wildside?
Yep. And boy, does she ever.
That's great. Biff does too. And he's just so tall, so blonde, so buff. So Biff. We're going to get married on the beach.
That's a pretty picture. But Hammyweight's threat must have made you afraid that would never happen.
It did. I told Ernie I would stop seeing Biff, but that would be impossible. He's my destiny.
Well, how are you planning to keep Ernie from killing your destiny?
Well, I went to his house to talk to him this afternoon. He was in the hot tub with Life. I tried being real sweet and offered to grill a snack for him, but he was mean and drunk and wouldn't listen. I went into the cabana to try to figure out what to do, and someone clobbered me. I passed out. It was totally bogus. My head is still throbbing.
Man, what time were you at the house?
Gee, I don't exactly remember. Sometime between 4:30 and 5?
Do you remember who hit you?
No, they must have been behind me.
I have to tell you, Bubbles, you are a key suspect because you really did have a strong motive to get Ernie out of your life.
I wasn't the only one. Ernie always thought that Marina's story about her husband's death at sea was fishy. And just this week, he showed me an old, rusty sailing trophy that washed up on the beach. He said it was the missing piece of a puzzle and it would bring a murderer to justice.
So you think Marina may have killed him to keep him from revealing that she killed her husband?
I do. And I saw her lurking near Ernie's this afternoon when I went over there.
All right, any other theories you'd like to share?
Well, I hate to raff on Life, my tie. But the gossip is that Sonny broke up with him because he gave Ernie the old letters and the things he found and sold the jewelry. She thought he should have donated everything to the town museum. Poor Life is pretty heartbroken.
All right, so I understand. Okay, Bubbles, stick around. You know, I think we're actually going to have this figured out pretty soon.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
All right, folks. Now this is going to be a tough one to solve. It seems like everyone in this town hated Ernie Hammyweight. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break, enjoy some refreshments. You may even get to get up and talk around with some of the suspects that I just interviewed. But why don't you take your suspects list and with you and circle who you think did it. We're going to reconvene here in about 20 minutes, collect your votes, and then we'll let you know who you think is the murderer. To what you guys think after hearing the suspects, it looks like the audience believes that B, our guest, is who killed Ernie Hammyweight, followed by Mrs. Marina Swag. Then it was Officer Sonny Bright. The women. I worked with Sonny. That hurts. All right. Raslin C. Ritters was next, followed by Bubbles J. Kuzi, followed by Mike Z. Beach, and then followed by Dr. Clora Phil, and then Paul Meadow. Now, we did have one person say that it was an accident, which that would make the night worth it, right? And then one other person said everyone did it, so that might have included me, I don't know. So let's see who really did it. Can I have all the suspects line up behind me, please? It is time for the big reveal. All right. Raslin C. Ritters.
Raslin, get her. You know, Ernie Hammyweight.
Call you.
In my life. Ernie Hammyweight did everything in a big way. You might say elephantine. He lived, loved, laughed, wrote, ate, drank, hated in a manner that was truly larger than life. But today, his grand adventure, you might say that Tomcat's 9th life came to an end when someone wrote the final chapter. And though I was tempted to do it, I was not that someone. Throughout my globe-trotting journeys, I have had many ill-fated love affairs with good men, who just weren't able to keep up with me. But there was also one bad man, Ernie. We met 10 years ago in the wilds of Kenya, and we hit it off immediately. Back then, Ernie was fit, attractive, charismatic, and we had a ball together like a couple of otters in a river. But sadly, his 3 worst habits, eating, drinking, tomcatting, got out of control, and I dumped him. Not surprisingly, the volatile bully did not take this well. He swore revenge, saying, "You better watch your back." Several years passed without incident, and I forgot about Ernie's threat. But when my beloved alligator Smiley, you can see where he got his name. Smiley turned up dead, I knew who was responsible. I was furious, and I was determined to avenge Smiley. Seeking justice, I enlisted Jake, the snake. He is small but fierce, to cause Ernie some pain. I arrived in Key West yesterday, and with the cold-blooded, but not poisonous, Jake in the trunk of my SUV, fast asleep in a refrigerated crate. And at 4:10 this afternoon, I parked near Ernie's backyard fence. I placed Jake in a canvas sack, and I carried him quietly into the yard. I saw Ernie relaxing in his hot tub. I didn't know life was there too, because he had submerged for a few minutes. Much like a hippo in a river. Moving stealthily, I deposited Jake on the seat cushion of the poolside chaise. He was sluggishly starting to awaken, and so I covered him with a towel, and I hurried off with the empty sack. For a while, I lurked outside the fence, hoping to see Ernie get the surprise of his life when he tried to sit on the surly Jake. I also wanted to safely retrieve Jake. He's very dear to me. But various intruders got in the way, and then Jake slithered onto the ground to pursue a tasty and exotic meal. I saw Jake eat a giant cockroach. While Paul, the bug hunter, was aiming his bug zapper at it, again, taking lives of innocent creatures. And I eventually had to give up, and I decided to drive off, trusting in karma. You know karma. Karma to ensure that Ernie would suffer, and Jake would make a clean getaway and return safely. It sounds like Jake's small but powerful jaws bit deeply into Ernie's leg. The pain must have been awful.
Is this on? Yeah. I'm the best bug hunter around. I was born with the ability to sniff out insects, a sixth sense that lets me feel them scuttling about. So from an early age, my career choice was clear. I heard recently that Ernie brought an exotic pet back from Eastern Europe, a Croatian kissing cockroach, foul critter. I knew two things: the bug had to die, and I had to make the kill. Since Ernie wasn't one of my customers, I'd have to sneak into the house to claim my prey. At 4:20 today, I snuck through an open window to Ernie's living room and began my search. Eventually, my bug-sniffing senses led me to the study where I found the loathsome kissing cockroach sitting in a pool of its own slime at the bottom of a glass tank. Carefully, I pried open the tank's lid and cocked my bug zapper. But before I could pull the trigger, B walked in behind me, surprised the two of us. We fled in opposite directions. I hid in a broom closet for about 20 minutes, until the coast was clear. At 4:40, I returned to the study and discovered the bug had escaped from the open tank. A trail of drool led out the window and into Ernie's yard. The chase was on. I moved towards the yard, but had to hide for a few minutes, then crawled onto the patio. No one noticed me. Life was out there, passed out in the hot tub, while Ernie was fighting with Sonny. The bug was directly ahead. Swiftly, I raised my gun and squeezed the trigger, but my aim was shaken when a huge cottonmouth emerged from under a towel near the lounge seat chair. As the snake snatched the cockroach in its jaws, my shot of bug death juice sailed over the animal's head and landed on a nearby table. I watched as the snake swallowed the bug in one gulp. While I was disappointed at failing at my mission, I had to admire the reptile. He's a worthy adversary, almost as perfect as a hunter as I am. So I nodded at him in silent salute, jumped over the fence, and went back to my van.
All right, thank you all for your votes of not doing this. We'll see what happens after this, though. Ernie was an old friend of mine, great drinking buddy, until he ruined my chances with Sonny. Love of my life. Well. When I fell for Sonny last fall, my pals laughed at the notion of me, an English bum, romancing a cop. But it was love at first sight. And I just knew I could win her over, the mellow lady, as long as I stayed out of trouble. So for the past few months, I was on my best behavior, and Sonny really warmed up to me. Until a few weeks ago, when I made a cool discovery on the beach. My metal detector, Treasure Hunter 10,000, found an old trash heap filled with newspapers, letters, and jewelry dating back to the 1800s. The letters, which included one about bees in, didn't interest me. So I gave them to Ernie, who was a history buff, and I made a bundle by pawning the rest. Score. But then my mean-spirited pal, Ernie, told Sonny about my ill-gotten gains. She got really upset and berated me for not donating the historic items to the Key West Museum. She even said she was through with me. I was heartbroken and intensely mad at Ernie, so I was quite receptive when Marina visited me yesterday to offer me $5,000 to murder Ernie. Oh, the hush comes over the crowd.
A lot better with $5,000.
We eventually agreed on $7,500, a small fortune for a guy like me. I entered Ernie's yard at 4 o'clock today. I shook his hand and offered to bury the hatchet. He eyed me warily, recalling the knockdown fight we'd had over what he blabbed to Sonny. But then with a smile and a slap on the back, he poured me a whiskey and invited me into the hot tub for a soak. As we sat there, I waited for Ernie to drink to the point of passing out, which was sure to happen. Then I would stab him with the sailing knife Marina gave me, which was hidden nearby in my shirt pocket. But the whiskey was so good and the hot tub so comfy that I drank way too much, rested my head, and fell into a deep sleep at 4:15. At 4:55, I woke up and saw two freaky sights. Ernie jumping around in pain from the snake bite, and Clara creeping into bushes with a sharp spade. Panicked, I grabbed my shirt and ran away. Back in the park, I realized the knife was not in my pocket. Some young lady asked me what I did with the knife. I don't remember, I lost it. I bungled the whole job. Perhaps Marina would give me a second chance. In the meantime, I settled down for a nap on the ferns.
I murdered my late husband, Sal. My fiery temper, when mixed with Sal's strong personality, made things get out of control during an argument at sea one day. Before I knew it, I grabbed one of Sal's bombing trophies, knocked him out, and threw him and the trophy overboard. His body was never recovered. And the police bought my tale of tragic accident. Then, with Sal's wealth and the gorgeous swag of the sea, I enjoyed a fabulous lifestyle. Cheers. But yesterday, I faced an alarming development. Sal's old buddy, Ernie, found the murder weapon among jetsam on the beach and identified it as Sal's trophy. Ernie headed straight for my doorstep to show off the prize. My heart pounded as he recalled how the trophy had gone missing from the Swag of the Sea's main cabin right at about the time of Sal's death. I never believed, Ernie said sharply, that an expert yachtsman like Sal simply fell off the boat in calm waters at midday. Curses. Ernie knew the truth, and now he had hard evidence. And if police didn't buy it, he planned to write a barely fictionalized story about the murder, making the facts clear to everyone. In short, Ernie wouldn't rest until he made me pay. I had to act fast to steal the trophy and stop him. As luck would have it, I'd heard of a recent falling out between Early and Life. So I hired Life, who was always looking for a handout, as my assassin. Once again, we agreed on a price. I discreetly handed him one of my old sailing knives. At 4:25 today, I arrived at Ernie's house. After spying Ernie and Life in the hot tub, I slipped through a window to the living room and quickly tracked down the trophy in a hall closet. Then I couldn't resist seeing Life's handiwork. Surely he had killed Ernie by now. But to my surprise, I found Ernie and Life still in the hot tub, passed out from drinking. Oh, why did I hire a bum like Life for such a crucial task? Now it was up to me. I hastily took the knife from the pocket of Life's shirt and knelt by the snoozing Ernie. But as I drew back the blade for the fatal stab, I heard an ominous hissing noise behind me. I turned around and saw what seemed like an enormous snake heading toward me. Shocked, I tossed the knife and ran from the yard. I was forced to abandon my plan and return home.
everyone. Hi. For years, I derived happiness from the simple things in life and never thought I needed a man to complete me. But the universe works in magical ways, and as life described, he and I found a special love together. But my world was shattered when Ernie tattled on life. I was bitterly disappointed and told my sweetheart in no uncertain terms that what he did was wrong. 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 Fighting back tears, I broke up with him. I could tell life was devastated. It was then I was fighting back tears, not now. In my heart, I wasn't sure I could stay mad at life, but Ernie was another story. He had always been a brash, cruel bully and hurting life. His supposed best friend was low and nasty, even for Ernie. So I resolved to pay Ernie a visit and give him a long overdue talking to. At 4:45 this afternoon, I entered Ernie's yard and saw him lounging in his hot tub. My dear life was in the tub as well, back again. But he was passed out from drinking to excess, no doubt. I started to see, I admit it, it was Ernie's corrupting influence that led life down the path to greed and dishonesty. How sad. I was so mad that I screamed at Ernie this afternoon. His reaction was to try to stab me with Marina's sailing knife. If it wasn't for my police training, he might have succeeded. In the end, I didn't even arrest him for battery. Just ran back to the station to find my center by meditating. Namaste.
Of all the endangered plants I fight to rescue, none is closer to my heart than a smelly little fern called the stink frond, Stenchus pungitis. I came to Key West to save as many stink fronds as possible. The locals were eco-friendly and sympathetic to my cause, but the hordes of tourists didn't notice or care if they trampled a poor, defenseless stink frond. Such callous ignorance. Today at 4:50, armed with a sharp gardening spade and a plant container half filled with local soil, I slipped through the gate into Ernie's yard. Suddenly, I saw that frivolous Bubbles come into the backyard carrying a barbecue skewer. I was startled and dropped my spade against the bucket, which appeared to startle Bubbles, so she dropped the skewer and ran into the cabana. Then, to my surprise, I saw Ernie jumping up and down near the lounge chair, clutching his bitten leg and shouting obscenities at no one in particular. A large snake slithered away into the trees. Ernie wasn't looking in my direction, so I hurried to the secluded corner and started to carefully dig up the stink frond. As I worked, I was briefly interrupted by life's pantic flight, yet remained focused on my task. By 4:58, the plant was in the container, so I made a fast escape and returned to my Motel 5.5 room. I felt confident the stink frond would survive until I gave it a new, safe home in Miami greenhouse.
Oh, it's true that I was Ernie's kept woman. He paid for my beachfront apartment, and I could spend his money like water. There was just one condition. I could flirt with other men, but not get seriously involved with them. For a long time, that wasn't a problem. But a few months ago, I met him. Biff, the blonde, and I were sneaking around behind Ernie's back and using strange words like marriage and forever. It was totally tubular. Silly me. I should have known Ernie would catch on to us. He confronted me about the affair and demanded that I stop seeing Biff, or else he would cut the purse strings and kill my new man. I knew the strong, domineering Ernie wasn't bluffing, So petrified of losing my sweetheart and all that money, I swore I would break up with Biff. But in my heart, I knew that was totally bogus. When I told Biff of Ernie's threat, his macho veneer faded. In a trembling voice, he asked me to take care of Ernie so we could be together. But if the manly Biff was afraid of Ernie, then what could I possibly do? I decided to try talking it out with Ernie. We had, after all, been friends for all these years. At 4:30 today, I peeked through the fence of Ernie's backyard, found him in the hot tub with unconscious life. Quickly and quietly, I slipped into the bedroom and grabbed Ernie's wallet. I mean, I could use the cash and credit cards to help me when Biff and I relocate to some far-off tropical paradise after I finished with Ernie. Next, I went to the kitchen, grabbed a sharp metal skewer, and crept up behind Ernie's back. I was about to stab him when I got startled by a dinging sound behind me. The skewer fell to the ground, and I dashed into the cabana to collect my thoughts. Apparently, I wasn't alone because I was suddenly knocked out by a sharp blow to the head. I woke up, left the cabana, and saw a horrible sight. Ernie was floating face down in the pool, a cloud of blood spreading around his lifeless body. Terrified of getting blamed for his murder, I hurried home. On the way, I threw the wallet into the dumpster after pulling out a wad of cash. With my sugar daddy dead, I need the money to pay for my next gnarly party.
As you may have deduced, I am not truly a guest. My family name is Bandits, and my clan's history is a bloody one. Back in 1862, the Guest and Bandits families were locked in a bitter, long-standing feud over Guest House and the land it was built on. Angry words led to vandalism, which led to fisticuffs, which led to murder. My ancestors wiped out every last guest and disposed of the evidence. Then they claimed the house, and when the law started sniffing around, we even took on the guest name. This terrible truth and terrible tale was secretly passed from one generation of bandits to the next, and thus I know the truth. As the current keeper of the guest house, it is my duty to ensure the story is not exposed and to keep the inn, my family's livelihood for generations, under Bandits' ownership. Recently, I heard some troubling gossip. Life had unearthed an old letter from a relative of mine and shared it with Ernie. The writer planned to reveal the letter's contents in his next book, a sprawling memoir entitled My Larger Than Life. No! To verify the rumor, I invited Ernie over for tea yesterday and gently pumped him for information. He said a dark and scandalous story about Guest House was in his new manuscript, which was nearly ready to be sent to his publisher. As Ernie left, he smirked and said, "Thanks for the scones, Miss Bandits." I was simply horrified. I had to destroy the letter and the manuscript. At 4:20, I crept into Ernie's house to search for the book. Ernie always claimed he was too old-fashioned to own a computer and still used a typewriter to create a single copy of every manuscript. I was counting on this. As I entered the study, I stumbled upon Paul, so I fled until the coast was clear. At 4:50, I returned to the study and found the manuscript next to Ernie's typewriter. His notes were nearby, and I easily located the old letter among them. After putting the manuscript, notes, and the letter in a manila envelope, I snuck into the backyard and hid in the cabana. Unfortunately, Bubbles dashed in. Since I couldn't let her discover me, I quietly picked up one of several empty whiskey bottles and knocked the poor thing out. I'm sorry. You too. Peeking out from the cabana, I was about to make my escape when I noticed a large knife in the grass near the grill. I realized this was my chance to silence Ernie once and for all. He was sitting on the edge of the pool with his back to me, hugging his leg and moaning. I picked up the knife and crept up behind him. I took a big breath and thrust the knife into his back and pulled it out. He tumbled into the pool like a stone. Crazed with adrenaline, I wiped the blade off and threw it into the hot tub. Then I raced back into the cabana, grabbed the envelope, and strode away. Back at the inn, I threw the envelope into the fireplace, watched it burn, and hoped for things to return to normal in our lazy, playful, beloved Key West.
All right, here are guests. You guys can be making scones or muffins behind bars.
Well, wait, Detective, do they have a computer with ancestry access?
I think your genealogy days are numbered.
Oh, no.
And hey, Marina.
I have a very
Come over
important
here.
meeting.
You're not going anywhere except for prison for the murder of your husband. Come on, you two. What's that? Yep, I know how to do this. Just typical police work. There it is. All right. Off we go.